And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios, which today is in Park City, Utah. Mr. Randy Wang's at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, here's a sampler of some of the drops people have been requesting MP3s of at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
Ooh, this doesn't look too good.
Quite frankly.
Questions? I'll be back. Get out. Go forward. Now.
Get out of my way.
And so many others.
We really do have an embarrassment of riches, don't we?
And some of the classics that never die.
I know.
And of course,
if the cashier is dummy.
Those were the competing top two for 2022. At the end of the year, we're going to do another Drop Awards for 2023, where you, the audience, will nominate what is the drop of the year.
Janice Hahn is looking pretty strong.
That's your final warning.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a former member of the Reagan administration. He's also a political commentator who you can see on Newsmax television, and you can follow him on Twitter at Real Jeffrey Lord. Jeffrey Lord, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. You know, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I think the summer is over.
Is that so?
And since I'm living in Pennsylvania, I can tell you we're starting to have a leaf problem here. They keep falling off the trees.
Well, I can tell you this. It still feels like summer in California. And you know how I know it's summer in California?
How?
Because Target has all the Christmas items on display. We start early.
We have that problem here as well. As a matter of fact, I went into Hobby Lobby once in August, and the whole Christmas section was up. You can't
Target,
make it up in the Target, yeah.
Target, Hobby Lobby, and the Hallmark Movie Channel. It's always Christmas in the summer.
That is right. Oh, and that good reminder on the Hallmark Channel. I had let that drop here. I got to get back in the groove.
Well, now you've got some weekend material for yourself, Jeffrey.
It's always better than the real news. That I know.
Well, it's certainly better than the real news than what Joe Biden experienced this week, because our former employer, CNN, put out a new poll that showed that Joe Biden loses to virtually any of the Republican candidates currently running for president, including former President Donald Trump. And a politically sophisticated person like you knows that if Donald Trump wins the popular vote by 1 point electorally, based on the distribution of where the electoral votes are, this thing could be a blowout, not particularly close. Very bad news for Joe Biden. What's your take on that CNN poll, and how bad do you think it is for the White House?
Well, as a matter of fact, I've done a column for Newsbusters for tomorrow, and I can tell you exactly what my take is on this. The very fact that this is a CNN poll. CNN, when we were there, and it was infinitely more left-leaning, and still, I think, some left-leaning, they, like a lot of leftist news outlets, the New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, were great at practicing omission journalism, which is to say, if it went after a liberal of the moment politician that they loved or a liberal cause that they loved, they simply didn't report it, or they downplayed it. Hunter Biden, that famous episode with the New York Post and their Hunter Biden laptop scoop, and it was buried. And I went and looked today as I was researching this, and sure enough, there was CNN in the day saying that this was not reliable, not a reliable story. And what interests me is that they published this poll, and I thought, well, maybe under the new ownership and leadership and all this, they're changing. And they are either one of two things. Either they are putting this stuff out there now, and they're sort of going to stop doing omission journalism, Or, also a possibility, they're still on the left, but they're sending the signal to Joe, leave.
Well, if that's the case, they have one problem, and her name is Kamala Harris, because she will lay claim to that Democratic nomination if they push Grampy Joe off the cliff. I don't see how any other Democrat takes that away from her without her going absolutely bonkers and crying sexism and racism.
That's right. That's right. And, there was a precedent, not in the race sense, but there was a precedent for this. When I was, not to date myself here, John, but when I was 17, I was a page to the Republican National Convention in 1968 in Miami Beach, Florida, that nominated Richard Nixon. And there was much talk at the time that he would pick Nelson Rockefeller, the Governor Rockefeller of New York, or Governor Reagan of California as his running mate. Instead, he picked the highly controversial Spiro T. Agnew, Ted Agnew, the governor of Maryland, who was seen in the day as somebody who'd been elected as a moderate and then went far right, and the media hated him. And he picks Agnew as his running mate. And Nixon was reputed to have said that he picked him because Ted Agnew is my insurance policy. And as events turned out, Agnew got caught in a payback scandal from Maryland politics and had to resign as vice president. Nixon picked Gerald Ford to replace him, and sure enough, he was thrown out, and they replaced him with Gerald Ford. So I look at Kamala Harris, and I think, Joe Biden has this in mind, that she's his insurance policy, and nobody's going to really want him thrown out in any serious fashion because he'd be in charge.
There are Democrats who seem to be jockeying to build national profiles in the event that something does happen to Grampy Joe and Democrats come to their senses and realize that Kamala Harris is not the answer. One of those Democrats is our governor here in California, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has been doing all the national shows, from the late night shows to the political shows to the cable shows. He wants to be out there, and he's trying to build a national database by pushing this constitutional amendment regarding guns that's going nowhere fast. Recently, he sat down with NBC News' Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, and here's what he had to say about his presidential aspirations.
Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and we're looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect. But we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
But you hear these calls privately. What do you tell these donors who are wallowing in this?
Time to move on. Let's go.
And am I supposed to interpret that comment about the vice president, that if for some reason the president chose not to run at this point,
that's the
everybody rallies around her?
It's the Biden-Harris administration. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned.
Yeah,
maybe I'm a little old-fashioned about presidents and vice presidents. I was a lieutenant governor, so I'm a little subjective.
Oh, please, you slept with your campaign manager's wife. Stop talking about chivalry.
Well, he's your governor, not mine, although we have a pretty smooth one here in Josh Shapiro, who's also periodically on people's list as the next Democratic nominee. Not as much as your governor, I will say that. But if anything else, Governor Newsom is smooth. He really does know how to handle these political questions, and that's the kind of thing that can, in fact, get him nominated in a crunch. And I think objectively, maybe it's subjectively, I don't know, about Kamala Harris. I think if Joe Biden got out and she jumped in the race, as Governor DeSantis is finding out on the Republican side, it's not all that easy to run for president. After all, it took Joe Biden several tries before he made it. And I think it's entirely possible that if Biden gets out and she jumps in, that she could get clobbered on the campaign trail within the Democratic Party. And, one of the one of the things that I point to in history. I'm old enough, as I say, to remember 1968. And Lyndon Johnson was the incumbent Democratic president who'd been elected in a landslide 4 years earlier. He was very unpopular by February and March of 1968 because of the Vietnam War. Robert Kennedy, Sr., father to the current Robert Kennedy, was hugely popular, and people were begging him to run. Democrats were begging him to run. Well, he wouldn't do it because he knew that his reputation for hating LBJ was well out there, and he didn't want people to think he was doing it just for spite. So he didn't do it, and out of the blue comes Senator Eugene McCarthy from Minnesota, who challenges LBJ, swarms into New Hampshire with all these college kids, keeping clean for Gene, as the motto went, and he almost beat him. He got, I think it was 42% of the vote to LBJ's 45, 46%. That was such a monkey wrench into things that within a week, Bobby Kennedy jumped into the race, and within a week or two after that, LBJ got out. I think that kind of chaos could ensue here, although my version of this is that the Eugene McCarthy figure is Robert Kennedy Jr., and the Robert Kennedy Sr. figure is Gavin Newsom.
Here's Gavin Newsom on his relationship with Kamala Harris.
It's your relationship with the vice president.
We knew each other before we were both in politics. The day I got sworn in as mayor, walked across the street. She got sworn in as district attorney. Extraordinarily close working relationship, including her time in the Senate.
So you can't imagine ever having to run against each other?
Of course not. By definition, it won't happen. But I've said that 1,000 times. We privately continue to maintain a very good relationship, interpersonal, just how you doing, checking in. It's been a challenging few years with COVID. And we've had the opportunity to sit down, have lunch together in the White House. We spend time talking about important things.
So nobody's
and
upset.
trivial
She's
things.
not upset that you're going to debate Ron DeSantis.
Maybe. Apparently someone in her office is, because I read some off-the-record quotes. I wish I knew who that was, but I don't hear it from her. So, and I'm certainly not hearing it from the White House itself.
Okay, Jeffrey, is that passive-aggressive or overtly aggressive?
Yeah, I go with passive-aggressive. And the thing that rings true there is that somebody on the staff, her staff presumably, took a shot at him anonymously. I mean, you and I have been around the block with this kind of stuff, and there was always somebody on candidate A, B, or C's staff that thinks it's clever to take a shot at the rival candidate and do it undercover and all that kind of thing. So that doesn't surprise me in the least. It's kind of amusing. But I will say this, the fact that they came out of San Francisco around the same time in California and all that kind of thing, if there's not an open, well-known animosity, I can see where he might hesitate here because with the makeup of the Democratic Party as it is, he would instantly be accused of being, racist, sexist, yada, 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 to get started in. And it would cause him a problem in the long term that he wouldn't want to have. So I think maybe his best bet is just to wait for her to implode, and I think that would happen.
Earlier today, Nancy Pelosi made news by announcing that she is going to run for re-election as the congresswoman from San Francisco. She's currently 83 years of age. If she were to serve out that term, if she were to be elected, and she'd be a heavy favorite in that race, of course, she would be 86 years old, and I guess has the potential to run for yet another term to serve in the House of Representatives. What do you make of that decision?
I think she is very envious of the late Senator Strom Thurmond from South Carolina, who, as I recall, made it almost to 100. I don't think for 2 seconds that if she were reelected, she would bow out after one more term. I think she'll just keep going until she can't, until she just literally, passes out or whatever. As long as she, and in part, this isn't just Nancy Pelosi, but this is the mindset of a lot of Washington politicians. And, there's an old political saying that the only way to end Potomac fever is the grave. I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Well, here's what I can't figure out. I understand why people want to hang on to power. I understand that it takes a very long time, particularly in the modern media age, to develop name ID to the point to where people know who you are. I understand people who are wired a certain way, where you only sleep 3-4 hours a night and you're an animal and you live to work and your work is your identity. That part I get. But to go from being Speaker of the House to essentially being a backbencher in Congress, that's a big step down. You lose the gavel, you lose the office, you lose the private plane, you lose all of the perks, all of the goodies that came along with being Speaker. You still have to travel, you still have to deal with constituents, you still have to show up and vote. You have all the headaches that come along with being unelected, but you lose all of the perks that you had. That part I don't understand.
Well, I will say this, that I think that she believes, not incorrectly, that she may not be Speaker, but she still carries immense clout in the Democratic caucus. And I seem to remember somewhere in one of her earlier controversies that I think it was her daughter who said something along the lines of, "Mom will slit the opponent, the opposition's throat before they even know it's happened." She is ruthless, among other things. That's how she got to be Speaker. Remember, her father was mayor of Baltimore. I mean, she came through all of this stuff when she was a kid. And I think she knows exactly what she's doing there and still wields an immense amount of clout. And I would have to believe that she's a senior on whatever committee assignments she has. And so I don't think she's cloutless by any means.
I'll tell you, I've come across a bunch of people in this business who don't have anywhere near the power or clout that Nancy Pelosi has, and they behave the same way. There was a guy by the name of Phil Wyman who was a longtime state assemblyman, a real power player in Sacramento. And he left his assembly seat to run for a state Senate seat in an open election, in a special election, oddly enough against Jim Costa, who went on to become a congressman. And he beat Jim Costa by like 1 point to serve out the remainder of the term. And then he lost the Senate seat the next time he was up. And he spent the rest of his life running for office trying to get back in. And I think he made it to the assembly one more time, but after that it was just running for office and losing, running for office and losing. And at a certain point, people stop regarding you as being viable, and they look at you as if you're a gadfly, and you lose the ability to raise money, and you have no real shot at winning anything. And even when he achieved gadfly status, every cycle he would run for something different. And instead of going smaller and running for school board or water board or central committee, he'd go bigger. I think he ran against Kamala Harris for the U.S. Senate at one point.
Wow.
But he just wouldn't give up. He passed away eventually, but he kept running until the day he died.
Yeah, I certainly have met people like that. And one of the finer tricks in American politics, or probably politics anywhere in a democracy, is you need to have some understanding of when it's time to walk away. And, you know, as we all know from American history, quite famously, with the exception of Franklin Roosevelt, who you know, because of the Great Depression and World War II, was elected 4 times, precisely because George Washington was such a monumental hero as the father of the country and was the first president, he made the point of leaving after 2 terms. And that became the tradition until finally FDR broke it, and then Republicans, when they got back in, put it in as part of the Constitution so that presidents can only have 2 terms. But you've got to be able to walk away. And, you know, one of the things as I've gotten older, it just seems to me, John, that, you know, people need to have a life beyond politics. It's okay to be political. It's okay to want to do all that kind of thing. But you need to have the confidence in life that just because you're not holding office doesn't mean your life is over. And, you know, this is one of the things that I think is important is when you're elected to Congress, or for that matter on the state legislative level, you don't move to Washington. You know, you sleep on your House office floor or your Senate office, or you rent a room, but you don't move your entire family down there. You leave them back in your state, so that you have to go home every day, not just for political business, but home to your family life. I think that it is much healthier that way. So if the moment comes when you're going to pass on the baton, you can leave it and realize you don't have to be involved in the Washington scene at all. But it's a heavy thing. You know, while we were sitting here right before I went on, Newsmax had a story about all these employees of the CDC who, when they left their jobs at the CDC, went to work for Big Pharma in Washington. In other words, they just can't get enough, and they're not going home, you know, and this happens all the time.
Jeffrey Lord, you can watch him on Newsmax and follow him on Twitter at Real Jeffrey Lord. Jeffrey, always a pleasure. Have yourself a wonderful weekend, and thanks so much for your time.
All right, you do. Happy fall here. We're heading into 24. Buckle in.
All right. All right. If you want to email us, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to listen to podcast editions of this program over the weekend, you can do that quite easily.
That's right. Go to KBC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can search for The John Phillips Show on YouTube. It's so easy to do. You will not believe how easy it is.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly.
And Randy, we're going on the road next week.
That's right. A week from today, noon to 3, it's the John Phillips Show broadcasting live from the Gelson's in Century City at the Westfield Shopping Center. The Gelson's in Century City is a wine bar. We're going to be there from noon to 3, so come on down, have lunch, maybe get a T-shirt. We're going to be giving away some stuff, and it's going to be a great time. We hope to see you. Noon to 3, the Gelson's in Century City. See you there.
Yesterday, we spoke with the owner of the jewelry store in El Monte that was the victim of that horrific smash and grab that caused $20,000 worth of damage. We got so much of a reaction at the radio station over that interview, we've decided to replay it for you, and that interview will be replayed after the news. Well, you asked for it again. Our interview with the owner of the jewelry store in El Monte that was a victim of a horrible smash and grab. So here it is. Let's listen to it again. The state of California has seen a rash of smash and grabs all over not only Los Angeles County, but the rest of the state. We saw the Americana in Glendale get hit to the tune of several $100,000. We saw the similar incident happen in the San Fernando Valley at the Topanga Center. We also saw a Nike store in East LA get hit. And then there was another incident at the South Bay Galleria in Torrance. But one video of late has gone all over the place, viral, as they say. It was a jewelry store in El Monte, which, of course, is an independent city in eastern Los Angeles County, that got hit by a man who had staked out the store days before and was so suspicious, the family that runs the jewelry store made a mental note, and I believe even printed out a picture of the individual in question, because they were so concerned about him coming back looking to rob jewelry from them. Well, he did come back, and he sprayed him with bear spray, and he brought a hammer to start smashing glass cases so he could steal the jewelry and take off. However, this family didn't allow their store to get robbed without fighting back. They fought back, and they chased him out with sticks. The guy lost his shirt while he was leaving, claimed to have a gun, and was able to get away. Joining us right now is a member of the Meza family, the owner of Meza Jewelry in El Monte, California. Welcome to the show.
Hi, this
Hi
is
there.
Rosanna.
Rosanna, thank you so much for stopping by, Rosanna. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for taking your time of interviewing us, because this has to stop.
Let's
smashing
start.
glass, they have to stop.
How often is this something that you and your family have to think about? Because typically when you're running a store, and I come from a family of small business owners, you have to worry about making payroll. You have to worry about paying for your inventory. You have to worry about being current with your insurance. There's a million different headaches that you have to deal with without having to deal with someone sticking a gun in your face or macing you with bear spray or trying to rob you. How top of mind is crime for you and your family right now as you try to operate your business?
Well, right now, before this happened, we used to think about it, like it's happened all over California. So we had to get prepared, So, but we never thought it was going to happen like so soon to us. So when this happened, we were like kind of in shock at first. And, it's terrible for a store, because we weren't prepared. We weren't prepared to pay extra payments to repair the store. And also, we've been working so hard for so many years. So when you see someone that it hurts your family, and then it tries to take your work, all your money away, because we work so much that it gets me mad. I can't even express myself right now, because just by remembering it, I'm just mad, and mad, and I feel like I can do nothing about it because there's no laws that support our businesses, small business.
Let's talk about the incident in question, because this guy had been in your store before and was acting so sketchy, you guys made a note of it. Is that true?
Yes. He came like about 3 to 4 weeks ago. So my sister and my brother, they were here with my mom. So this guy was asking for the expensive stuff on the jewelry. So my brother was like, he looks suspicious to me, He looks like he was like recording all over the store. No regular person does that, Like, why he would do that? And then when I came for the thing that I had to do outside, he told me, and I just told him, you know what, record him in case of, he does something here, because there's been a lot of smash and grabs, and he looks so suspicious just doing that, checking the place and recording all the plays, It was like so suspicious. So like just record him on your phone, so if something happens, we could remember who he is, And then so he did it, and then on Saturday we compared the pictures that we took from 3 to 4 weeks ago to the ones on Saturday, and it's the same guy to us. It's exactly same guy. So I'm just mad right now because I'm mad and sad because we need to repair our shop. We need to waste money on what we weren't expecting.
When he came back, did you say to yourself, that's the guy that was taking us out 3 weeks ago, or did you not figure it out until after he robbed you?
I didn't figure it out until after, because he had a mask on. So until he left, and we checked the camera again. So that's when we see that it was the same guy. And by the body and how tall he was, we kind of had like a clue that it was him, and he had the same tattoo. So that's when we noticed it was the same guy.
And he was a big fat guy, right?
Yes, it was a big fat guy.
Now,
and he had tattoos all over the hands and the neck and on back of his on the back. So that's when we noticed it was him.
And so he brought the bear spray in with him when he came back the second time. How long did it take before he started macing you?
Like less than 30 seconds. It was really fast. At first, it maced my uncle. He was outside sitting down, just to check who was coming in and out, because, there's been a lot of break-ins into stores, so he was just aware, We always were. He was outside sitting down, and then he sprayed on my uncle first into the eyes, and then he came in, and then he started breaking the showcase. Then he maced everyone else in the store. He just started spraying out on the eyes, directly to the eyes, and then he sprayed out on the air,
But you guys
So
fought back.
immediately.
How did you
Yes,
fight
we
back if you couldn't see anything? Because I've talked to people who have been maced before, and they say that you can't see anything when you get maced. How are you able to see them to hit them with the stick?
Honestly, I don't know. It was just like a reaction, you know. As I said before, we've been working for this so much. We work at the Swami first for 10 years. We used to save our own money, so we just can't let him like take everything, you know. We had to do something.
And what was he saying as you guys were beating him with the stick?
I don't really remember because it was so fast. But somehow he got out of the store, and then when my brother was chasing him, my brother and my dad, he threatened my brother and my dad that he would be back and kill us, you know. And I'm just like, you know, I don't feel secure anymore in this city.
And he claimed that he had a gun. Did he ever show you the gun, or did he just say that he had one?
He just said that he had one. He just claimed that he had a gun. We never saw it, but you know, it's better like to like, you know, like we didn't want to double check if he had it. You know, like we were like kind of scared at that moment already.
So you have this big fat guy in your store busting up all the glass, busting everything up. How much damage was done to your store?
Right now we're counting probably like 20,000 plus whatever gold we can fix. So probably it goes like up to 60,000.
And will your insurance policy pay for any of this, or is this all coming out of your own pocket?
It's coming out of our own pocket because at this time we didn't have insurance. We were trying to get, before this happened, we were trying to get insurance. So in case that something like this will happen, but it didn't give us time, you know, so we couldn't get it before something like this happened. So right now we're trying to get insurance already.
Now, we have a district attorney in L.A. County, George Gascon, who, as a point of policy, doesn't like to prosecute anyone. He thinks the people who rob the stores are the real victims, and the people who own the stores need to check their privilege. What do you say to people like him?
Well, first of all, we don't have any privilege, you know, because we work so hard. So how's the privilege, you know? And these people are robbing because they don't want to work, not because they were born poor and they can't have anything, you know. So they have to work in order to have something, and they just want to grab someone else's property and damage their lives and just take it away like that. I don't think it's fair, you know. So we need better laws to enforce against these criminals, you know.
And we have laws at the state level, Prop 47, that doesn't even allow the cops to arrest people if they steal less than $950. So the cops say their hands are tied. There's nothing they can do unless they change the laws.
Yeah, we need politicians to work in favor to the good citizens, not to the criminals, you know. So, and also we know, like, you know, we have to choose our politicians very good. We have to see who we're choosing, you know, because politicians, they're not working in favor to the small owners or to the regular citizens. They're just working in favor of them, you know.
I would imagine that in your business, where you put your blood, sweat, and tears, if you are robbed, you are maced with bear spray, and he threatens to come back and kill you with a gun, that would be traumatizing. Has your family?
It is.
Yeah. Has your family been traumatized?
Well, yeah, because we had this feeling that something's gonna happen, that he's gonna come back. You know, my brother, he's so anxious. I'm so anxious. Also, yesterday I saw the police. He was coming with a helmet, and then somehow I thought it was like this guy again, you know. And then my heart started beating really fast. But it was just the police officer with the helmet. And so, you know, we're not okay right now. So.
Has anyone at the city, a council member, Hilda Solis, the supervisor, anyone come and talk to you about this and the trauma you guys have experienced?
Well, they show up. They've been so supportive. The mayor and the chief, the police chief, they show up on Tuesday, and we're very thankful that they're on our side, you know.
Well, I'm so sorry that this happened to you and your family. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen in California. It shouldn't happen anywhere. And
that's why it shouldn't happen anywhere. Because, you know, we moved from Mexico because it was dangerous, and we come here, and it's getting the same, you know. We thought this country was safe, but it's not anymore.
I'll tell you, I've lived in California my entire life, and I've been to Mexico probably, 5 or 6 times this year. There are parts of Mexico. I go to Ensenada. I've been to Cancun, Puerto Vallarta. I feel safer in Mexico, in those parts of Mexico, than I do in many parts of Los Angeles. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's getting crazy here. You know, we can live in peace because, you know, there's people that don't want to work, and there's politicians that they don't want to make laws against them, you know, against these criminals.
Are you guys back open?
Yes, we're open. It's just that, you know, we need the support of the audience, whoever wants to. You know, we don't want free money. We just want whoever could buy from us. You guys are welcome. And we have even discounts, so we could pay all the repairs. And, you know, now we have to get like a new fence, so that way we could stop, like, in the future criminals. And we're thinking on getting security also. So we need the support of the community, you know, as you know.
If you're getting engaged, if you're celebrating an anniversary, if you're shopping for early Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, and you plan on buying some jewelry, definitely go down to El Monte and check out the Mesa Jewelry Store in El Monte. They are a very hardworking small business. They've experienced this trauma, and the best way to support them and to support the victims of crime is to support them with your business. So if you're in the market for some jewelry right now, please go down and take a look at the Mesa Jewelry Store in El Monte. Rosanna, I'm so sorry that all of this happened to you. You're very courageous for speaking out and telling your story, and your family is also courageous for not sitting down and just taking it, but fighting back, because you worked very hard to put that business together, that store together, and to establish a good name in your community. And some thief doesn't have the ability or shouldn't have the ability to take that away from you.
Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it a lot.
And what street are you on in El Monte?
At the Valley Mall. No, it's called Main Street now. Back then it was the Valley Mall. Now it's Main Street.
Okay. So Main Street in El Monte, Mesa Jewelry. Rosanna, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the support. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye.